What if I told you that one of the most touching moments in Hollywood wasn't caught on camera, wasn't written into a movie, and wasn't even known to the world until now? A small act of kindness from Keanu Reeves, so pure, so unexpected, that it left Sandra Bullock speechless, and when the story finally came out, it moved millions of people around the globe to tears. Stay with me, because what you're about to hear will restore your faith in friendship and remind you of the beauty in life's simplest moments. Keanu Reeves and Sandra Bullock, two of Hollywood's most humble and genuine stars. Their paths first crossed on the set of Speed back in 1994, a film that would become a worldwide hit and cement both of them as rising icons of their generation. At the time, both were relatively new to the intense spotlight of fame. Young, talented, and still a little wide-eyed about Hollywood life, they found themselves not only working closely on an action-packed, high-pressure film, but also discovering a natural chemistry that extended far beyond the cameras. It wasn't just on-screen magic. Off-screen, there was an unspoken connection, a deep mutual respect, and an effortless friendship that began to take shape almost immediately. Neither Keanu nor Sandra were the typical loud, party-loving Hollywood types. Both were known for being thoughtful, a little shy, and refreshingly down-to-earth. This authenticity became the foundation of a friendship that would quietly endure for decades. Fans noticed it right away. Long after Speed hit theaters, the admiration between Keanu and Sandra only seemed to grow. Whenever they appeared at events or in interviews, that bond was visible, a certain warmth in their smiles, a comfort in their exchanges. And naturally, rumors of a possible romance often swirled. Yet every time, both Keanu and Sandra would softly laugh off the idea. In countless interviews over the years, they both echoed the same sentiment: we just missed the timing. But what truly endeared them to audiences worldwide was how genuine that affection remained. It was never about headlines, drama, or publicity. It was something quieter, something deeper, an example of what real, lasting friendship can look like even under the bright and often unforgiving lights of Hollywood. Yet, hidden beneath this friendship was a little-known story, an act of kindness that Keanu had quietly carried in his heart for years. Never shared publicly. Never used for attention. It was one of those small but deeply meaningful moments that speak volumes about a person's character. For decades, the world had no idea. That is, until one unexpected, emotional interview, when Keanu finally revealed the memory. And when he did, it wasn't just Sandra Bullock who was touched. The entire world would soon learn about it, and be moved to tears. In 2023, during a candid podcast with People magazine, Keanu Reeves sat down for what was meant to be a casual conversation about his long career. The talk flowed from his early films to personal reflections, until the host leaned forward and asked a question that caught even Keanu slightly off guard. Is there a moment with Sandra Bullock you've never shared, something that means a lot to you? For a moment, Keanu sat still. His gaze drifted downward, a soft smile tugging at the corners of his mouth. The typically reserved actor was clearly searching through the vault of his memories. After a brief pause, his eyes warmed, and with that same humble tone that fans across the world adore, he began to speak. There was this one afternoon, after filming Speed. It was back in the 90s. He leaned back in his chair, almost lost in the recollection. I had heard Sandra mention, just in passing, that she'd never tried champagne and truffles before. The simplicity of that moment, that casual remark, seemed to have stuck with him all these years. The podcast host, now leaning in with curiosity, urged him on with an encouraging smile. Keanu continued, she said it casually, almost like an afterthought. But I couldn't stop thinking about it. It felt like something special. I wanted her to experience it. So, without any grand plan or expectation, Keanu took it upon himself to create that moment. He described how, a few days later, he had wandered into a small upscale shop in Beverly Hills. There, he carefully picked out a fine bottle of champagne and a small box of rich, velvety truffles. No occasion, no cameras, no assistants, just a thoughtful gesture from one friend to another. And then, as he recalled with a quiet chuckle, he jumped on his motorcycle, the wind rushing past him as he rode across Los Angeles, the small gift tucked safely in his bag. He arrived at Sandra's house, unannounced, and knocked on her door. Keanu smiled as he remembered the moment. She opened the door, surprised, laughing. And I just said, I thought you should try these. The podcast room fell silent. It was a story so small on the surface, But in that simplicity, so touching, it revealed something about Keanu that words often fail to capture: a heart full of kindness, thoughtfulness, and genuine care for the people in his life. Keanu smiled warmly as he continued, his voice soft with genuine affection for the memory. I knocked on her door, no warning, no occasion. She opened it, surprised, laughing. And I just said, I thought you should try these. The moment hung in the air, simple yet full of heart. Sandra, caught off guard in the most delightful way, welcomed him in without hesitation. There was no formal dinner planned, no elaborate setting, and no expectation for the visit. It wasn't about impressing or making a grand gesture. It was simply two friends, bound by mutual respect and quiet affection, sharing a spontaneous moment. Inside, the atmosphere remained relaxed and warm. Without giving it much thought, they ended up sitting on the floor, surrounded by the cozy comfort of Sandra's living room. No pretense, no need for ceremony. They popped the bottle of champagne, poured a couple of glasses, and unwrapped the box of decadent truffles. For Sandra, it was her first time tasting both. Keanu chuckled softly as he recalled, we just sat there, sipping champagne, trying the truffles, and laughing like kids. The imagery was vivid. Two young stars, far from the polished world of Hollywood premieres, simply enjoying each other's company in the most genuine way. They talked about life, their hopes, their fears, their journeys so far. There were no scripts, no cameras. Just two people being human, connecting over an ordinary yet extraordinary afternoon. Keanu paused, as if replaying the moment in his mind. Then, with a thoughtful look, he added, it was simple, but beautiful. The podcast host, clearly touched, leaned forward and asked the question lingering in everyone's mind, did Sandra know how much it meant to you? Keanu's smile turned wistful. He gently shook his head. No, I never told her. Just one of those little memories you carry with you. It was a rare glimpse into the kind of man Keanu Reeves is, someone who finds meaning in the quiet moments, who doesn't feel the need to boast about small acts of kindness, who treasures memories for what they are, rather than for recognition. And in that unspoken simplicity, the story resonated even more deeply, a reminder that sometimes the most lasting connections are born not from grand gestures, but from the warmth of shared moments between friends. What Keanu didn't know was that just weeks earlier, Sandra Bullock had been interviewed for another magazine feature. During the conversation, she had been asked a similar question about memorable moments or acts of kindness in her life, and without hesitation, she shared the very same story. With a bright smile and a sparkle in her eyes, Sandra had recalled that special day. One of the kindest gestures anyone's done for me was Keanu bringing champagne and truffles to my house. No one had ever done that. It made me feel seen, valued. I'll never forget it. She spoke about how unexpected and touching it had been. In an industry often filled with superficial relationships and fleeting friendships, this simple act had stayed with her for decades. It wasn't about the champagne or the truffles, it was about the thoughtfulness behind it. The fact that Keanu had remembered an offhand comment and gone out of his way, without any expectation of attention or gratitude, had left a lasting impression on her heart. When both of these interviews were released, almost back-to-back, fans quickly noticed the beautiful synchronicity. On one side, Keanu speaking fondly of a small act he never thought to mention for years, simply carrying it quietly as a personal memory. On the other, Sandra holding that same moment as one of the most cherished gestures in her life. Neither of them knew the other had spoken about it. The pure sincerity of it all touched millions. The internet quickly caught fire. Clips from both interviews began circulating on social media platforms. Fans around the world were moved by the authenticity of their friendship. Comments and reactions flooded in by the thousands. This is the most wholesome thing I've heard in years, another user wrote. Keanu, the purest soul in Hollywood. Many others chimed in with praise for both stars, saying, real friendship looks like this. In a world often dominated by headlines of celebrity scandals, breakups, and feuds, this simple, heartfelt story of two longtime friends reminded everyone of the beauty of small acts of kindness and genuine connection. It wasn't about romance or fame, it was about respect, care, and a friendship that had stood the test of time. And in that moment, people everywhere were reminded of what really matters, the simple things, done with love. In a world so often dominated by celebrity scandals, gossip, and constant drama, here was something refreshingly different, a small, sincere act of kindness that quietly left a mark forever. It wasn't about fame, headlines, or trying to impress anyone. It was about friendship, thoughtfulness, and the kind of simple gesture that can mean more than any grand event. Keanu's story was a beautiful reminder to everyone. It's not the expensive gifts or the public displays that truly matter. It's the moments when you listen, remember, and act with genuine care. The fact that Keanu remembered such a small, passing comment from Sandra, and not only remembered it, but acted on it, with no agenda, spoke volumes about the kind of person he is. In a world often obsessed with doing things for attention or praise, this was pure. It came straight from the heart. And in that unassuming moment, a quiet afternoon, champagne and truffles shared between two friends, there was something deeply touching. No cameras. No press. No social media. Just two people connecting over a thoughtful act. And that simplicity, that authenticity, is what moved millions when the story finally came to light. It's easy to overlook the small things in life. But often, it's those very moments that leave the greatest impact. Keanu's gesture reminded us that the heart behind an action is what gives it meaning. You don't need to plan an extravagant surprise or spend a fortune to make someone feel seen and valued. Sometimes, all it takes is a simple act, done with love and intention. When the story spread across the internet, it resonated deeply with people everywhere. In a world where so many feel disconnected or caught up in the rush of life, this was a gentle reminder of the power of kindness and friendship. As one fan so perfectly wrote, "In a dark world, stories like this remind us of the light." And for Keanu and Sandra, their friendship remained strong and unshaken, timeless in the truest sense. Decades later, that simple day still holds meaning for both of them, even though neither knew the other had carried it in their heart for so long. It's a beautiful example of how genuine connections, built on respect and kindness, can stand the test of time. And in sharing this moment with the world, they've given all of us a little more hope, a little more light. If this beautiful story touched your heart, don't forget to give it a like, share it with your friends, and of course, subscribe to the channel for more inspiring moments like this. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next story.